Hello, hello, my friends. It is so wonderful to get together again with you. This is episode 71. Can you believe it? And I was settling in after I did the last video, and I'm not entirely sure I made some significant points, which I meant to. We were talking about the personal self and the impersonal self. And I was saying, what if we were like the puppets, responding to the world in a personal way? But I was suggesting, what if society was the puppet master? And I didn't mean that there was not a personal interaction with society, but it's like, what came first? Did a separate person come first? I don't think so. As a baby, first we got the teachings from our parents and from society. Being a good little boy, being a girl, having a name. This is your toy. That's not your toy. Eat this way. Use a fork. Smart little boys, smart little girls do this and that. We learn those things from society. And then we take over in our minds the things that we love, the things we identify with, the things we believe are us, which A Course in Miracles calls idols, false idols, the sharp toys that hurt us. Then we no longer need society or parents to give us these nuts ideas. We promote them ourselves. Someone used the phrase, we molest ourselves, our true selves, our heartfelt, innocent, real selves with these dictates. Recently, I was invited to a grief conference, and because I said some things that don't fit society about grief, people were telling me how when they were grieving, they couldn't be authentic. What did they mean? They meant when a person seemed to be dead, passed on, no longer alive in a body. This particular man was to this woman a very difficult, cruel, in her experience, person. She was incredibly relieved when the dance was over. Now, A Course in Miracles would say he's not a cruel person. He is innocent, just like you and I. This was a cry for love, his horrid behavior. But from her perspective and in her truth of her authenticity, he was a horrid man who made life very tough and painful for her. But my point was, even in death, even with this man who she considered horrible, she was pretending because people expected that when your father dies, you're grieving. So she put on a real show, which made her feel worse. How many times do we put on shows for other people or for ourselves? You know, we're not feeling well, and someone says, "How are you?" "Oh, fine." How's your day?" "Fine." Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Meantime, I'm considering killing myself. Not me, but others recently in my extended family and people like Twitch, a dancer that many of us knew and loved, have taken their own lives. And so we know we don't need these people to tell us. We don't need new people to tell us that many people feel very unsure about telling anyone their emotional truth. What I know, the little that I know, because we know nothing, but being 76 almost, and being a psychotherapist for 30 years, more than 30 years, listening to people, what do I know? I know that the truth, even when it's a lie, the truth meaning if I feel like an icky person, if I feel like I'm a horrid person, which the Course says most of us feel underneath, if I tell that so-called truth, that is way the first step to no longer believing it. When we hide shameful thoughts, we bury them deeper and deeper, and we solidify them. We know that from therapy. We know that from shame treatment. We know that from imagined unworthiness. We know that from 12-step groups. We know that revealing what we thought was the true I brings relief, because that's the best way to find out what the Course says. That's really not the real you. So what is that? This is why this is part 3 of the personal and the impersonal self. I think we could spend the rest of our lives in awakening and talking about only this subject. It covers everything. The Course says we have only one problem, and that's a belief in separation. And everything is a tributary, like on a tree, from that problem. So what could be more separate than a personal self? So I think we all know what a personal self is. What we don't really know is the impersonal self. And that's why this is the 3rd video in this. Maybe I'll just keep talking about this. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see what Spirit teaches us to talk about, because I'm learning just like you are. Today, I want to mention lesson 103. God being love is also happiness. Happiness is an attribute of love. I want to say that happiness, the way the Course uses it, and the way non-duality in the direct path uses it, is speaking of contentment. I believe I mentioned in the last 2 videos, that would be 69 and 70, that wanting nothing, needing nothing, even feeling so expansive that you're not a person, it's like a profound neutrality. It's very hard to describe. It really is indescribable. We can make attempts. The other day, I was reading the fable that I wrote. It's a non-duality fable with no jargon that's going to be coming out in print this spring. And by the way, it has a companion about my real life story memoir right after, because when I realized how closely it resembled the fable, I had to share the truth of my story. But here's my example the other day. Of course, every time I wanted it to be good, every time my editor eventually got through what she thought was dense copy, and she had some trouble understanding non-duality. It wasn't the easiest for her to understand. So I got that she was like my best reader. She was a spiritually developed new thought person, but non-duality went a little far for her. And I was reading it, the story, the fable, to my illustrator so that he would pick up my voice as far as the little girl and the wise woman in the fable. And when I got done, I realized I was listening from a totally empty place. I was listening not for his reaction, not for how well I was doing in the reading, not for how good or icky the manuscript was. It just was. And I was present to who this man, this illustrator, seemed to be. I say seemed to be because I just met him. And I really didn't have any stories running about him. The story just was. You just are. I just am. What does that mean? What is isness? And what does this mean? God being love is also happiness. Does it mean, yay, my day went so well, the car got repaired, it only cost this, dinner was ready, or whatever it is for you? Have enough money in the bank, or you have enough heat, or people are coming for Christmas, whatever it is. You look good in the mirror, you don't look good in the mirror, does that ruin your day? You've gained weight, you've lost weight, your health is up, your health is down. What is it for you? Let's take a little inventory now, as the Course many times asks us to do. Because if God is only love, and if happiness is love, then the divine has a kind of contentment, but not a this and a no to that. It's missing the rejection part. We love this, this, and this, and we don't like that, that, and that. Those resistances are agreed upon by both the Course and non-duality, the direct path, that will not bring us to the love and happiness of the divine. Everything we reject, the Course tells us, will be felt in our heart with that arrow coming toward us. And we have certain cerebral things. I hear course people saying, and I know the arrow will fall back on me. But who's the me? Is there a you? There is an embodiment, something breathing, something that has flesh, that is temporarily breathing. But we can't agree on what that is. People disagree. Scientists keep wanting to find a physical self, and they don't. They can't. We keep on being energy, quantum physics. But what are we? There is something that is aware of this happiness that's spoken of in lesson 103. There is something that is aware of what the course calls the peace that passes all understanding. Those of us who've done the lessons many times are brought to that experience where the troubles of the world disappear and we're left only with that contentment that in this lesson is called love, that resists nothing and actually desires nothing. And it is something. The second sentence of this lesson, after happiness is an attribute of love, it says it cannot be apart from it, nor can it be experienced where love is not. Love has no limits, being everywhere. That is what the impersonal is to me. It doesn't end in a body. It doesn't start with the body. The body and the mind are not the reference point anymore. Would you join me for an experience right now? Let's start out where we all start out, in our minds. We feel this. What do you feel now? What did you feel today? What did you notice? Okay, you had that feeling. What was a predominant thought you had today? Oh, this. Oh, that. Oh, this is good. Oh, this is not so good. Oh, Holy Spirit, come help me. Something's off here. I'll put it on the altar. Oops. Took it off the altar because I need to fix this. What were you doing today? Did you feel like something was yours to do? Did you judge it while you did it? You did a good job. You did a bad job. Someone interfered. Time interfered. If you'd only be left alone to do what yours is to do. Ah. Let's go to the isness. What is aware that you were either doing a good job or a bad job? You could say, well, your mind, you're right. Your mind is always thinking, thinking, feeling, loops and loops of thinking and feeling. But what is aware of thinking and feeling? There's something deeper, something behind, something before and around. Who was there before you were the little girl and the little boy identified that way? Not so much who, I think it's helpful to say what. There was consciousness. There was an awareness that wasn't called a body or a leg or a mind or a person. It was being aware, aware of being hungry, aware of being tired, aware of being held, aware of being alive, even though you didn't have the word for alive. We could say that art points to the truth. Books and words try and speak the truth. And mostly they're a lie because they're kind of sort of the truth. And then what we do to things that are true is, it seems to me, we run them into the ground until they're not true anymore because we overdo it or we make something extreme and distorted out of it. How do you do it? Look at what you love. You love your grandchildren? That's nice. But do they distort your world? Do you feel like if something happened to them, you couldn't exist? Are there conditions? Do your older grandchildren need to behave a certain way? If they didn't, would you take away their inheritance if there is one? Would you take away the goodies from grandparents? Would you give them anyway and not want to? What do you do with yourself? How conditional is your love for yourself? I'm here to say it's conditional. If you have any judgments of yourself, and which of us personal selves doesn't? But let's step right back into the isness. Let's step beneath our thoughts and feelings. Take a deep breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. Where does your aliveness end and where does it begin? If you still think it's in your head, your aliveness, what knows that it's in your head? Is there something before you were aware of a mind? Is there something deeper back? When you're at peace and you're just staring at nature or staring at nothing out the window, where do you begin and where do you end? Is it your finite body? Or is there a consciousness that we could call the love of God in the isness? What does it say again? Happiness is an attribute of love. Happiness meaning needing nothing, not a high, because a high is just the same as a low, just the opposite. Happiness cannot be a part of love. From be apart, A-P-A-R-T. It can't be separated from love, nor can it be experienced where love is not. Love has no limits, being everywhere. Lesson 103. And therefore joy is everywhere as well. Yet can the mind deny that this is so? Mind will say, what about the children being persecuted? What about the children who are hungry? What about racial injustice? Believing there are gaps in love where sin can enter, bringing pain instead of joy. That comes from the mind. Does that mean we should not do anything about racial injustice or the children who are hungry? Absolutely not. When we know that what we are is this impersonal happiness, the love of the divine, more of us wants to extend rather than withhold. The people who do what appears as hateful things are hurt people, people crying for love, looking for love. It says in this first paragraph that it's a strange belief that would limit happiness by redefining love as limited and introducing opposition to what has no opposite and no limit. Is that not everything? It's A Course in Miracles. It's the direct path to peace and love. And it's right now. It's acceptable. It's available. It's for all people, not special people. You don't have to sit on a cushion for 365 days. You don't have to prove your commitment by a disciplined practice of any kind. You don't have to prove your worth. You are worthy. Unworthiness is imagined by the mind. I love you. The divine loves you because you are the whole impersonal self with capital letters. You are not this private, imagined, separated self that is unworthy and is full of sin. Yay, that's the good news. Thank you for hanging out with me yet another time on Personal and Impersonal. Bye for now.